Hello my possibly expatriate peeps, this is Kat, aka Kakibot, and normally I bring you videos about life in Edinburgh and Scotland and what to see and what to do, but today we are not gonna be doing that. We're gonna be sitting down and having a little bit of a personal video. But I think that you should keep watching because this is going to be useful for you. If you're an expatriate like me, if you're someone who lives in a country where they weren't born and you're kind of dealing with culture shock on a daily basis and you're just a bit different from like the mass of people you live around, then this video might be kind of like a nice relatable thing for you. You might feel less alone in the world after listening to this, and you might want to let me know in the comments below if any of these like super hit close to your heart. And if you are not an expat, but you do have some expat friends, then this video will be super informative to you because you will suddenly understand what it's like to live in a country where you're not from and all the challenges that you have to deal with every day, but also all of the great things about being one of us. Anyway, today we are going to be talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly of being an expat. Let's start with the first good. You are always learning. You are learning bad habits. And you are also finding out that you are slowly forgetting your mother tongue. Honestly, I don't think that this is something that anyone could have prepared me for when I was first moving here. You know, those 10 years ago when I was this 20-something overly confident linguistic whiz, I just thought that I would move here and it would be that like last level, that last bit of the ladder that I'm climbing to sound like a native speaker. I don't know, I think that perhaps for some people that happens. For me, it hasn't happened. And honestly, what I'm noticing is that I'm picking up more and more horrible habits from my local friends. That can be horrible habits in both writing and speech. You also stop learning vocabulary in that kind of like flashcard sort of way where you're like learning a word and you know exactly what it means in your original language. So you absolutely lose the sort of quick translation skill. Now if someone asks you from your original country, like, oh, I don't know this word, like that seems pretty advanced, like, do you know what it is? And you're like, yeah, sure, I know what it is. And then you kind of get stuck because you actually do not know the equivalent in your original language. And you actually will feel very, very stupid. And the top level of this whole problem is that you do notice that you are just not that great at your original language anymore. You are slowly losing that edge in your mother tongue. You used to be very sort of grammatically pedantic to all the other people. You would point out like, ooh, that capital is not supposed to be there, or like this is not supposed to be Y, that's supposed to be I. Just, fix that. Like, what, like, did you not finish elementary school? What is this? And now you find yourself exactly in those shoes of the person who is struggling to remember why is something spelled a certain way and how grammar works. And it's just, yeah. For me specifically, my biggest problem is that I haven't used Czech keyboard in about 10 years. So now when someone wants me to write like a very official email and I'm kind of expected to be using that specific sort of diacritics of Czech language, I don't know how. I literally forgot how to do that. It is not like riding a bicycle. You will forget all those little things and you will find yourself in a destination that is called, I know 2 languages and neither of them I know very well. I feel very stupid. On to the next one. The next good. Yay! You now have this huge life experience that will make it extremely easy to bond over with some other people who share that experience. Because of that, you find yourself in a place where like 99% of all your friends are also from other countries. And when you have to admit this to others, especially people from your original country, you bring great shame to both yourself and all of your ancestors. So this is something that I noticed recently, and I think this is because I kind of floated into my early 30s, and those are the years in your life that are kind of famous for making it somewhat hard to make adult friends. I think that once you're out of school and maybe, you've been in employment for some time, so like you've tried to make some friends in your workplace, but there's not that many like new people coming in, you kind of lose that influx of new people naturally spending time in your surroundings. And obviously, you know, the lockdowns and everything made this even harder. But if you're an expat, you get like this cheat code. Like, you have this huge life experience that comes with so many extra fun topics to talk about. Like, whenever you meet someone who's also from another country, so many things to talk about and commiserate about, and it's great. But the fact that it is so easy will just kind of make it automatically, like, you will just be this moth to a flame. You know, like, I hear someone speak with an American accent, Canadian accent, New Zealand accent, Italian accent, and I'm like, come, instant friend, like, talk to me, I want to know everything about, like, how you moved here, what are you doing here, I want to know it all. And it's also because, like, if I do the same with people from Scotland, you know, they have lived here for such a long time, usually their whole life, and that means that they have that whole kind of, like,
bubble.
Yeah, the bubble is a good word for it, because, like, sometimes I find that it's hard for them to, like, step out of that group of friends that they have had since school years and to kind of, like, enter your bubble instead. Yeah, a lot of people here don't do that, because I do talk to some Scottish people, but I should be talking to more Scottish people. Most Scottish people I know are usually, like, someone's boyfriend. One of my expat friends' boyfriend or husband. And yeah, that's how that usually happens. So yeah.
Yay!
You have become so much more independent than you would ever have if you stayed in your home country. Exciting. You have so much to be proud about.
Boo!
But with that big move, you've also lost probably all of your social support network. And now your new social support network is made almost exclusively out of other expats. So the problems that you have and you need help with, and their problems that they have and they need help with, is a Venn diagram that's essentially a circle. So I think that this is actually a thing that happens to everyone. And it happens when you first leave home, like your parental home. Because that's the moment when you realize that it is not the underpants fairy that takes your underpants at night and cleans them and irons them, and then in the morning they're ready for you to wear them again. It's your parents, they do this for you, and when you move out you have to do all of this on your own. And you know, there's all those little bits that you know, you always have friends who can come over and, like, look at your internet. Like, you have friends who are good at IT, you have friends who are good with plans, you have friends who can, you know, like, fix your favorite dress. And then you move away from your country and you leave all of those wonderful people behind, and you have to learn all of this. And you should be proud if you do learn all of these things, but sometimes it can be very frustrating and honestly stressful. There's just so much stuff. And you often end up in a situation where you're kind of thinking, like, oh, I know, like, I have such a lovely friend back home, or like, I know this person, or like, you know, like, if you lose a job, that's a good example. If you lose a job, you're looking for new jobs, and suddenly, like, you know, maybe 2 people in your new country, that puts you into a much worse situation than if you were back home, where everyone, when they see on Facebook that you're looking for a job, everyone on Facebook is like, oh, I wish you were here, I wish you were back in Prague, like, we just started the startup, like, you could be the CMO, and you're sitting here like, I have made a horrible mistake. You are exciting, you are new, you are different, and everyone will always have this perfect icebreaker to use when trying to have a conversation with you. That icebreaker is usually one of the most stereotypical factoids about your country. And it's also usually very outdated, if not offensive. So this one is a bit special to me because I am both the victim and the one to be blamed for it from time to time. Because whenever I make friends, as I mentioned, you know, my friends come from all sorts of different countries, and that to me is also very exciting. So I like to believe that sometimes, you know, my conversation starters with these people are original and, you know, still valid factually. But I do remember that in my recent history, I have taken a friend to the museum, and at one point I just pointed at the map of the world and I was like, look, it's United States, it's where you're from, as if she didn't know where she was from. So yeah, some of these sort of like awkward conversations with people that you have met just recently, like you might find yourself doing this just as much as people will do it to you. I often get hit by facts about Czechoslovakia, a country that hasn't existed for the last 29 years, and also some facts from time to time about Jaromír Jágr, one of our famous hockey players and the father of the mullet. You now get to try so many new things on a daily basis, even the most boring things, you know, like buying a sandwich or a meal deal from Tesco are a new experience, and you're just trying new things every day and the dopamine is just hitting you. It's fun. You, however, also realize that those are exactly the things that you miss the most from your home country, those everyday, boring, mundane things, and there's nowhere to get them. And when you do eventually find them, they will probably cost you an arm and a leg, or they are just not quite exactly what you're looking for, and you found the surrounding country equivalent of what you're looking for, but it's like the next best thing, but it doesn't quite itch. But it doesn't quite scratch that itch, and you get really frustrated. Or the absolutely worst scenario is that, for example, some other Czech expats will start a restaurant or a food truck, but you can see how over the years they eventually end up changing the recipes so they fit the British palate and not the Czech palate, and that is heartbreaking. Yay! And the last good is that you get to start a whole new life with a blank slate, this, empty page that you get to fill with new experiences, and there's nothing to remind you of your teenage blunders. There's nothing, no places that you walk around and they instantly make you think of how someone dumped you around that beautiful fountain or in that park. But you still have to go back to your original country quite often, usually for the most inconvenient things. Usually it's some sort of paperwork or a wedding. Weddings can be nice, but between the two of us, it's a lot of work and money that you usually have to put into it. Or when you're trying to travel back just to stop your parents from throwing out all of your keepsakes from elementary school, like the school newspaper that you used to be editor-in-chief of. And also, especially after a couple of years, when you do make it to your hometown, you start feeling like a total alien. The more time you spend out of it, the more you're gonna just see how you don't belong there anymore. And that can be both a good thing and a heartbreaking thing. I think that to me, it's definitely very bittersweet. And the more people I talk to about this, the more I see that this is like a really common phenomenon. I think that because a lot of people who move to a different country have a reason for that. Usually they already didn't feel like they super fit in their original country, so they moved somewhere else, somewhere where the culture accommodates them better. But once you spend a couple of years outside of your original country, you will lose all of that hard shell that you built while you were living there, and suddenly there's this strange vulnerability, and people also treat you a bit odd just because they can tell that you're from there, but you act different and you seem kind of anxious about everything. I don't know, for me, whenever I go to Prague, I super love Prague. I love it so much, the place. I love the place so very much. I could walk around Prague for hours. I could just, take pictures and take in the architecture and the whole spirit of it and the ghostiness of it. But then you have that living layer that I just feel like I'm not a part of anymore, and I don't quite know how to fit into it. And yeah, again, it's bittersweet because it should be your home. It's kind of like if you don't feel like your family, and I don't mean that, my family definitely feels like my family, but it is the equivalent of if you came to see your family after 10 years and suddenly you were like, I don't know these people, like who are these people? Yeah, and that's how being an expat and coming back to your hometown can feel. Okay, so yeah, that was it. That was the 6 goods and bads and uglies that I could think of when I was writing the script for this. This was a video that I actually super wanted to make for quite some time because, again, with my expat friends, these are the topics that we talk about a lot, and I'm very fascinated by a lot of them. Obviously, the easiest one is probably asking my friends what it is that they love the most about life in Scotland and what it is that they miss the most about their original country, especially like the sort of everyday things, like what chocolate bar do you miss the most, or what piece of like home cooking do you miss the most, or what did you have to learn to cook to get over missing that food that you miss so much. And I guess what I want to say is, if any of these topics resonated with you, I would be super glad to hear more about that down in the comments below. We can have like a nice chat about it, because for once this is just a chatty video. I think it was fun to take this opportunity to tell you more about how I feel about my experience of being an expat, but I would super love to know what that experience was like for you. And again, if you are not an expat yourself, I hope this has been helpful, because perhaps your kids or your husband or someone who is dear to you is an expat, and now you kind of have like slightly more insight into how they might feel and have that conversation with them. Okay, that is it for me for today. Next time there's gonna be another more travel-y video, I promise. And until then, you can follow me on Instagram on kakibot and kakiblog, and also visit me in my Etsy store, which is full of Scottish goodies. There's gonna be a link down in the doobly-doo. Alrighty, and that is truly it for me, and I shall see you soon.